Alright, so what do you get when you take a Netflix original, attach the Russo brothers to direct, and give it a $320 million budget? One massive reason to buy an HBO subscription instead. The Electric State is the newest big-budget Netflix original movie, and it's set in the wake of a war between humans and robots, where an orphaned teen hits the road with an unlikely crew on a mission to find her long-lost sibling. So I swear to God, the Russo brothers are single-handedly giving me trust issues, because I strongly dislike everything they've directed since their work within the superhero space has ended, but I'm also someone who thinks Captain America: The Winter Soldier is the best MCU movie of all time. Like, someone please make it make sense. So when I heard that they were teaming up with Netflix to make a sci-fi adventure that would cost more than the last 10 Best Picture winners combined, the red flags started piling up that we were in store for another big budget stinker here. And because I am a massive fan of original science fiction, when I sat down to watch this film, I was really hoping to be proven wrong and get an engaging adventure that would be worth the big investment. But outside of the impressive visuals, there's really not much to write home about regarding the Electric State. Now let's start by talking about the story they decided to go with here, because the movie is actually based on a book of the same name that I haven't read, but in some ways it's actually kind of a robot-centered version of Severance in The Matrix, exploring themes of technology consuming our lives if we let it, and basically denying us of all human connection due to the type of escapism it can provide. And I'm definitely interested in examining that premise and think it creates a solid jumping off point for a post-war sci-fi adventure, but they didn't really go about it in the most engaging way. I'm curious how much of the original plot from the book they changed for the film, because the entirety of the story here just feels super predictable to the point that you could map out how it's going to unfold beat for beat after the first 20 minutes. Every team up, every change of heart, every tiny bit of character growth can be seen coming from a mile away, which really exposes just how formulaic and run-of-the-mill the whole narrative is outside of this fresh robotic coat of paint it has all over it. Kind of a bummer, because some of the ideas here would be interesting if they had been handled with care, but it all ends up very surface level. Now obviously the big elephant in the room here is the absolutely humongous price tag associated with making this movie, sporting a whopping $320 million budget, and I'd be lying if I said that the movie didn't look like a blockbuster production, because the way the world and all these robots are visualized is easily the high point of the entire film. It does a good job feeling like a lived-in universe if you solely judged it on its appearance. But you know what they say, you can put lipstick on a pig, but at the end of the day, it's still a pig. When it comes to the action, even though some of it is entertaining, it all feels pretty familiar, like the Russo brothers are just trying to do nothing more than channel their greatest hits again. I mean, there's a pretty big battle towards the end of the film with a lot of moving parts that kind of reminded me of the portal scene from Avengers Endgame, but it just has none of the stakes to go along with it. Even though Star-Lord is evidently kicking around in this one too, but there's no real tension to be found, which definitely hurts that aspect of the film. When it comes to the performances, this movie has an absolutely bonkers cast from front to back. I mean, we're talking about Millie Bobby Brown, Pratt, Stanley Tucci, Giancarlo Esposito. The list of well-known names goes on, which is why it's so frustrating that none of these characters seem to really have all that much chemistry together. I don't really blame them for some of it either, since there's a lot of green screen and they're probably talking to a tennis ball most of the time anyway, but on the other hand, none of them seem to be trying too hard to give us anything that we're not already expecting out of them. There's definitely a lot of going through the motions here. The dynamic between Chris Pratt and his little robot buddy, voiced by Anthony Mackie, is probably the closest we're gonna get to a dynamic duo here, since those two guys are likable in literally everything that they're in. But if there is anything a good sci-fi story needs, it's interesting characters, and somehow that just wasn't a priority this time around. Overall, guys, The Electric State is another hugely expensive misfire when it comes to the Russo brothers. The story is predictable, the actors don't have much chemistry together, and the action sequences will remind you of much better movies. The visuals are actually impressive and make you want to spend time in this world. They're by far the best aspect of this entire project, but that's just not enough to sink your teeth into alone or to justify the pretty penny that this film ended up costing. The Electric State gets a Sully score of 1.5 stars. So that's my review of Netflix's latest blockbuster. What's your favorite mega budget movie to come out in recent years? I'm gonna go with Avatar: The Way of Water, but let me know in the comments below what you think. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys at the next one.